Okay, so I was working today until 4:30 and I had the kids. So I didn't have time today to actually get the crock pot started early and make ropa vieja. Good thing is I have the Emerald Lagasse pressure cooker. So I'm going to make it in that to make it quick. But for right now, because I know we could saute in the pressure cooker, but because I'm going to cook the meat first to try and get it tender, and I don't want my vegetables to get mushy or too mushy because the pressure cooker really cooks. We're going to do the meat first so we can get that tender real quick. But I'm just going to fry it in the pan right now. So right now I'm only doing pretty much half of the recipe that I normally do. I normally do like 3 to 4 pounds, but today I'm only doing, this is 1.5 pound. And this is brisket. Brisket's my favorite. So I'm going to do brisket, and I'm going to I just cleaned it and threw it in here real quick. I'm going to turn it to medium heat, put some oil in it. I'm going to season it with garlic already minced, but if not, you do 2 cloves of garlic and then you chop it up really fine and then you mince it in there. Black pepper, salt, sprinkle cumin, oregano, garlic powder, onion powder, adobo, and then I'm going to do half a pack of the sazon. And so I'm just going to sprinkle that in here, and I'm going to do just a little drop of water just to have that in there with the oil and just mix it. Okay, so I just threw, pretty much it's maybe about less than a teaspoon of everything. I don't really measure my food just because I know. And normally what you want to do is when you have more than this, you're going to want to just cut it real quick into slides. I'm just going to I didn't even bother to cut it just because it's a small piece. It's literally 1.5 pound. So normally I would just like slice here if I'm going to do more, because I'm going to throw chunks into the crock pot or chunks into the pressure cooker right now, but it's going to shred easier because I'm going to throw it in the pressure cooker. So I seasoned everything. There's the oil, a little bit of water. It's just literally just a pinch of water. I'm going to move everything around just so it can, it's kind of hard to do it with one hand. Almost world. Almost world. Okay, so I pretty much sprinkled everything on there. I'm just gonna have it on medium heat, so it's getting hot, and I'm just going to lightly brown one side, and then I'm going to turn it off and then stick it in the pressure cooker. And when I stick it in the pressure cooker, I'm gonna hit beef, and instead of 25 minutes, so once I brown it, I'm going to hit beef and do the timer. I'm going to do 15 minutes, and I'm going to toss it in there. But while I'm browning the meat, what I'm also going to do is just turn that off real quick. What I'm also going to do is do half a cup of water. I'm sorry, not half a cup of water. So I'm going to do half a cup of beef broth, just so it has some liquid in it. I usually use the bouillon, or you can do just the broth real quick. So I'm just going to do half a cup of this. Normally what I do is I put the meat in first in the crock pot, but because I'm on a time crunch, I'm doing it in the pressure cooker. I'm going to do half a cup of this, just so this has liquid in the pressure cooker, and then leave it in there for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back. And I'm not doing my vegetables yet. So lightly browning it, and I forgot to mention that while I'm browning this, all the little bits in here, I'm leaving that in there because I'm going to cook my vegetables in it while the meat is cooking. So I'm just going to, once I'm done, I'm going to lower it, or not lower it, I'm going to turn it off and then just cook my meat. And then do the vegetables next with the rest of this good stuff. Okay, so while the meat is cooking for about 15 minutes in the pressure cooker. I already went ahead and cut everything. What I'm going to throw in my pot is not this. This is going to go in later. It's just shredded carrots. I just got carrots because I didn't have any shredded carrots, so I'm using what's on hand. That's just a snack for some ranch later. I don't normally eat bell peppers, but just these recipes really call for, and they just cook really good, so I really like them when they're cooked. So this is one red bell pepper. This is half of an orange bell pepper. Normally I'll do one red, and then I'll do half of green, yellow, or orange. Today I just have orange. And then this is only about one onion, but because I love onions, and it's a big yellow onion, I'll do about 2 of these just because I like it. So this is only one large yellow onion. I don't have that much meat, so it's pretty fine for what it is now. And I'm going to do 6 ounce tomato paste. It's important because it thickens it up. I'm going to do about 1 cup of sauce, and I'm going to do about half a cup of the Pinot, and then another half cup of the beef broth. And that's all gonna saute in the pan. So here's my pan that I'm gonna saute. I'm going to turn the heat back on a little bit less than medium, so about a 4. And I'm gonna stick a little bit of oil in here and then add my ingredients so I can fry my vegetables first. Okay, so I threw my vegetables in with a little bit of oil and I'm frying it. I opened my 6 ounce of tomato paste. I'm just going to mix that around. Then I'm going to put the rest of my ingredients. So right now the seasonings, I'm just going to add a little bit more cumin. It's kind of hard to come out, so just a couple shakes of cumin. A couple shakes of pepper, salt, a little bit of salt. Onion powder. The only thing I'm not adding extra is the garlic because there's already garlic at the bottom from when we left it in the pan. And I added the rest of that half packet of sazon. So I'm just frying it in the oil real quick with one hand. My helper isn't here today. I'm going to put a little bit of more oregano in it. I just kind of ran out of the bottle that I had. So I'm short, so I just gotta reach into the cabinet for the other bottle. Okay, so I threw in half a cup of beef broth, and then I have half a cup of white wine. I'm using Pinot Grigio. I'm just gonna throw that in there. The stuff is gonna cook down. Normally, I play it by ear, so after I taste it and while it's cooking, then I see what I want to add more of. You can always, my grandpa always used to say that you can always add, but you can never take out, so you do it a little bit at a time. And each time you even make the same recipe, you know, being experienced, you make the same thing over and over again, you can still mess up. So always put in, you know, what you know, and then put in little by little at that time. And it also goes by based off of the amount of meat that you're using or the amount of vegetables. Because I'm doing half of a recipe, so I'm just trying to sort of remember it. So doing about half a cup of tomato sauce on top of the 6 ounce of tomato paste. And then I'm going to go ahead and just mix this around with my tongs, and it's going to cook down a little bit. If you're making this for like the second or third time, or if you've had this before, you know what Ropa vieja is supposed to taste like, and it tastes good. So it doesn't taste like tomatoey or peppery or anything. It just, I don't know how to describe it, but it just tastes good. Since I did put the meat into the pressure cooker, I'm not going to make this as thin as I normally make it because it's going to thin out it's going to thin out from, you know, from this when I stick it in the pressure cooker after the meat cooks. But I am going to add a little bit more beef broth. And I'm going to add a little bit more wine just because of the flavor. And then maybe just a little bit. I'm just almost out, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the rest of that. It really doesn't taste anything different. And then I'm just going to go ahead and mix it around. And you can taste it, and you'll know if it tastes good or not. I honestly believe this is one of the recipes that's really hard. Like, it looks like there's a lot of stuff, but it's really hard to mess up. And if you don't want to follow my directions directly, you can always just take a look at the recipe that I had out the one time that I did measure everything. It came out all right, but I just know, you know, more stuff that I like. Normally I kind of like my dishes not salty, but I kind of like love to overuse salt sometimes. And it tastes really good to me and to everybody, but it's just not good on, what is it, your blood pressure or something? I don't know. Okay, but I did taste this. After I mix it again, I'm just gonna go ahead and taste the sauce real quick. Maybe just a little bit more salt. And I'm gonna turn it off. And then I have 2 more minutes on the meat. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at that from the pressure cooker. So I'm just gonna turn this off. Since it's already done, it's gonna cook in the pressure cooker. And I'm just gonna put that to the side. And then wait for the meat to be done in the pressure cooker. And so we can take a look and see if that's ready so we can shred it. Okay, so my meat wasn't completely cooked, but it was making its own juices in the little Instapot. It is cooked. It's just not as soft as I want to be, but I threw my mixture in there, and I'm going to go ahead and mix it real quick. Again, I would do this normally inside a crock pot and have it in there simmering for about 4 hours. That's usually when all of the ingredients together simmer together about 4 hours. But because I'm on a time crunch, it's already 6 o'clock, or it's like 6:15, and you know, I'm trying to feed everybody dinner before 10. So I taste it with the sauce that was already in there in the meat. Maybe it needs a little bit more salt. It does need a little bit more salt, maybe a little bit more wine, and then some garlic powder. Also, I'm going to go ahead and throw in my 2 bay leaves that I have and use this and just sort of pour that in there just to get some flavor. Well, it actually has enough juices, so I'm not going to do the wine or the beef broth, but I am going to throw in a little bit of salt and pepper and then garlic powder. Go ahead and mix that around. So much better. Put this bad boy on if I can. Put it on right. Alright. Pressure cooker lid back on. I'm gonna do beef. And I'm gonna do timer and another 15 minutes. Yeah, you can't change the temp. So Emeril Lagasse pressure cooker, another 15 minutes on beef, and just let that pressure cook. Actually, because I threw stuff in there, I changed it. I canceled it, and I'm gonna do stew and try for 10 minutes because technically I guess it is stewing the meat. And since I added the extra stuff and the juices instead of the the beef. This whole process is new to me. I just got this not too long ago, maybe about 2 months ago, so I'm still trying to figure out how to work it. But so far, most of the recipes that I've thrown in here have been quicker. I've only messed up 2 recipes so far, and just curry chicken. I messed it up last week, so that's just gonna stay on the stove on the way that I know how to make it. When I stuck it in the pressure cooker, it ended up turning into shredded chicken. So after 10 minutes of stew, the meat is so tough. I should have just done it in the crock pot and then fed everybody like cereal for dinner or something. A sandwich for dinner. You'd have loved a sandwich for dinner, right? Instead of ropa vieja?
I don't know what that is.
Ropa vieja is the meat that you like to eat. Well, you've had it like 10 times, Jaden. Calm down.
Oh, it's the stew.
It's not the stew. That's the beef stew. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to... I threw the Spanish olives and the carrots in there. And I'm going to close it. Obviously, I'm still working this out. It's not shreddable yet. But it tastes amazing. I just got to figure out how to cook it properly. Honestly, maybe just stick with the crock pot at first. It's 4 hours on high in the crock pot, and you throw everything in there after you're done with it, so there's no just cooking the meat first. You throw everything together because it's crock pot, so it's a slow cooker. Since I'm using the Instapot and I haven't figured out the settings yet, I'm just going to try again. So I had beef for 15 minutes first, and then I threw in all my vegetables on top of it and did stew for 10 minutes. And I don't know, maybe I'll do another stew. And let's do stew for 15 minutes. And I added the carrots, my shredded carrots, and my Spanish olives. Everything else seemed that it was still intact, so we'll see how it looks like afterwards. Okay, so it turns out maybe about 40 to 50 minutes, almost an hour in the crock pot cooking it. And now it's shreddable. So what I do is I hold the meat. I just take it in chunks because it can easily just cut up. And you can either do it 2 forks. Since I've been using the tongs, I'll just hold it with the tongs on one end, and then I'll get my fork and I'll just shred it like this. But I have to use both hands. And I don't have anybody helping me. And I'm not going to spend $10 on a selfie stick because that's a waste of money. I'd rather buy some alcohol for that. But you notice I'm just cutting it, or just shredding it with my little fork. And I do the pieces a little bit at a time, and then I toss it back in there, and then I pick up the next piece, and then I'll bring it to the plate to just shred. Alright. So I went ahead and shredded the chicken, or shredded the beef. Maddox calls everything chicken, so I've just gotten used to, like, you make bacon. Oh, is the chicken done? Alright, so I shredded the brisket. And here it is. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it. I would go and try and find the bay leaves, but they're in there somewhere. And they'll pop out eventually. It's not going to hurt you if you just eat. If you eat something with it there, they're in there. But it is done. I'm just going to let it sit there and cook. It's already done, so I don't need to do anything else, but I am just going to throw the lid back on. Right now I'm cooking the beans and the white rice, and then I was going to make plantains. I was going to do totones so that they can go with it, and it'll be a nice, beautiful plate. And I'll go ahead and put the recipe of a photo of it so you can take a look and see if that's something you want to do. Follow the directions to a T versus wing it.